Hi, I'm Shana Fannon, interior designer and advocate for connection, and this is Good by Design, a show about what defines us as individuals and how that influences what we create. And today we are going to welcome Christopher Plant. Before we cut away to the episode and jumping into the conversation with Chris, I wanted to let you all know that we actually filmed this in person. Chris took a COVID test and received a negative result, and had only been around others who also took a test and received a negative result. And so we both felt safe to record this in person, but kept our distance as much as possible during the episode. And now we'll connect to the episode. I normally give someone a title.
Mm-hmm.
However, you do so many things. I'm not really sure what title to give you. So you are simply Christopher Plant.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am the owner and the founder of Kismet Co-work, which is, where we are right now in the studio of Radio Kismet, which is a podcast studio that I established last year as an extension of what we were doing with Kismet Co-work. And that is, Kismet Co-work itself is a shared office space.
Yes,
that
a beautiful one.
That I sort of came to as a result of other different projects that I was working on. And then my primary vocation is that of a residential and commercial realtor.
Yes. And you have, Kismet Co-working has multiple locations.
That is correct. We have, we started in our first location was in Chestnut Hill, and that opened up in April of 2017. Our second location was here at Spring Arts, and we opened up in April of 2018. We opened up space in Manayunk, which is twice the size of either of those locations, in April of 19, and then Radio Kismet in September of 19. And we were chugging along. We're doing great, and had our most profitable month ever in March 2020. And then we got our legs taken out from underneath us, and now we're still...
It's not funny, but I'm laughing.
No, it's good. I mean, we're still trying to figure out what we want to do with Kismet, and I feel relatively secure in the fact that we're going to come up with something that works, that will be compelling and hopefully profitable as well.
Yeah. So we just spent some time talking about all these different iterations, all these different interesting things that you were able to do in your life. What is it that led you to creating Radio Kismet?
So we were building out our co-working spaces, and one of the things that we wanted to do to really make ourselves different from the other brands that we saw that were out there was really digging into the content game and helping people present their information in a meaningful way. And it just seemed like more and more that's what people really needed. That was the sort of blind spot was, how do I do this myself? How do I make it happen in a way that feels professional, but is also, affordable, that I can get out there. And it was like, whether it was going to be an interview series or just a straight podcast of somebody talking about their ideas or exploring different ideas, or it was going to be like raw new content. We wanted to help people do that. And so we were able to take this space that was in the building that we had already opened our co-working space on the first floor, build a stage, build a bar, a bathroom, and a recording studio. Yeah. It's 1,000 square feet, so it's very economical. Yeah. We probably had, between September and March, we probably had 150 events in here, and it was always fun. I mean, we're micro before micro was going to be like the post-COVID thing to be.
Right. Yeah. I came to the first event here, and there's an intimacy. There's not an overwhelming sense of like having 100 people that you feel like you've got to get to know. It makes it much more effective for you to like really connect with people. So I appreciate that. Yeah, you guys had 150 events. I'm very sure they were successful.
Yeah. And like you said, they were. It was much more fun. So the takeaway was not just being an inactive spectator, but an active participant in what was going on. So it wasn't enough to just put the information out there, whether it was a rock show, a poetry reading, a theater show, or a live taping of a podcast. Yeah. There was all this action that happened beforehand, all this action that happened afterwards that was really a coming together. And I think that if I was trying to do anything, it was breaking down the barriers between the stage and the spectator. Yeah. And I really believe that, good spectators can really make the difference in terms of what is happening with a performance. And also, I do believe that, the people that are providing the content are looking for better, more meaningful connections with their audience.
Yeah. And something you're saying there, I think there's a lot of energy. Like when we enter the room, a certain energy enters with it. And I think there's an energy that comes with, being able to record a podcast live, but have people there and see their responses and understand and see how information's landing and see how people's faces light up, or, how they might want to interact with that taping. So I think that's a great idea. I know there's, large podcasts who do it, but I think it's interesting to be able to create that kind of space for any size podcast to be able to have that kind of energy in the room with them, really.
Yeah. And I agree. And we're experimenting already with how we want to engage audiences into our podcast. And I think that based on our physical location, we're actually going to be taping a bunch of podcasts this fall and then simultaneously broadcasting them outside in the parking lot and having a whole social element out there where people can spread out and be in an environment where they feel super comfortable.
Yeah.
But
like
then we can
podcast tailgating.
Yeah, exactly. and I think that the reality of this new world that we're entering, where creativity and your willingness to like flex into a new environment and literally experiment with these new models of bringing people together, generating revenues, creating audiences is going to be what sets the average person apart from the extraordinary person. And in terms of like, how are you going to model your business? And if you are used to waiting around for things to kind of formulate and make sense for you, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I think now is a moment to understand that what creates a lot of resilience in our life is connection and relationships with ourselves as well as people outside, of ourselves. And I think, finding creative ways to get and stay connected with one another is something that I think, like you said, if you want your business to continue to move forward, you're going to have to be flexible about. You're going to have to think outside of the box, because the box has literally been blown up. Like it's been
Nothing's going to be
blown
the same.
We are both stuck in the box,
Yeah.
and the box has been blown up all at the exact same time, because the box being our home or wherever it is that we're quarantined, and then also the box being what was previously our lives. It's just been completely obliterated. And I hear people constantly talking about the new normal, but I don't think we're ever going back to the old normal in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that there is a possibility, really. When you look at some of the things that have come out of previous pandemics in the world, people being quarantined and sequestered away, and the creativity that came out of it, there was a lot of prolific change that happened in the world. And so, I see, us maybe recognizing the power of relationship and finding creative ways like podcast tailgating to be able to connect in a way that is still safe, but we're still able to have these group human experiences, which I think are really key.
Yeah, well, and if you really think about some of the things that we did beforehand, like going to a rock concert, big sporting events, Broadway shows where you are literally packed
like
into these
sardines.
spaces where they are, by their very nature, become a shared ecosystem.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's so interesting in the, like, thinking about the future of how we entertain ourselves, how we consume things, and how we come together, because so much is broken in the way that we would perceive that.
I'm honing in on that word broken, because I think for a long time we knew things were broken, but we didn't see a path to making it right. And I think we saw technology just bleed so quickly into our lives without us understanding the ramifications and without us understanding how dramatically it was going to alter our behavior. that I see this as being a moment of correction for all of us, and sitting back and saying, you know, how do I find balance, you know, in what it is that I'm doing in life? How is it that I find ways to put the screen down, to walk away from the computer, walk away from the television, to go outside and play with my kids, or I don't have kids, but you know,
you would consider it.
I would consider it if I had kids. I'd go outside and play with my kids, you know, remembering those things that, you know, because my generation, I think, is the last generation that will remember life without a cell phone. You know, the first time I got a cell phone, I was 17. So as a kid, I was shoved out the front door, and my mom rang a brass bell when it was time to come home. You know, if it was before, you know, nightfall, I heard that bell and I had to come, and I needed to be home within 5 minutes. You know, so I see this as a moment of us, you know, being able to send our kids back outside, you know, and kids being able to reconnect with imagination and have that moment of
Boredom.
Yeah, of what boredom creates. Boredom creates so much.
I'm not shedding too many tears over what we're leaving behind. I'm very much fixated on what the future is, and and how we are going to bring people together.
Agreed. Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate this.
My pleasure.
It's been great getting to know you better and talking with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.